Hi dear friends, 4 people went to the moon, circled it, and came back. We're talking about the Artemis 2 mission. However, there are many who doubt the truth of this mission, including Akki, the one I tried to talk to on TikTok. According to Akki, who believes the Earth is flat, everything is staged. It couldn't be any other way because if the Earth is flat, then the moon is very close and much smaller. Here is the summary. In this video, I have gathered examples of posts from those who deny the truth of the Artemis 2 mission. Watch it until the end to see what evidence these people bring and why Akki believes the NASA mission is a hoax. Here's a post where you can see the NASA logo on the Orion capsule. The author writes, "I need to know who made the blue NASA label that withstood re-entry to Earth, passed through a radiation belt, and endured heat of over 5,000 degrees. Actually, the picture is fake. In the real photo of the Orion capsule recovered from the ocean, that blue circle doesn't exist at all. You can also look for other differences like in the famous game. Here are the real images from the recovery. Moreover, the wording in the post about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit all over the capsule was misleading. Re-entry into the atmosphere doesn't mean that every point on the capsule receives that thermal load, and passing through the radiation belts wouldn't affect the capsule as much as re-entry into the atmosphere. Before that capsule arrived, people were already sharing other photos on social media like this one, which is obviously fake. Why was it fake? Some Romanians are joking. Here's why.
The surprise with Artemis, look, we showed you the film. That's how Artemis was made. So they didn't fly anywhere. It's a big studio. The rest is green, a green screen in the back so they can do chroma key, meaning you can put any picture you want in the background, just look at it.
That's exactly how it is. Here we see the astronauts from the recent Artemis mission in front of a green screen. That would be proof that they're staging the recent visit to the moon, don't you think? Here's the footage, slipped out from under the watchful eyes of the NASA supervisors. But are those really astronauts in these images? Actually, these images with the green screen are fake. They're not real shots from a NASA test. They're made with artificial intelligence, and the 4 astronauts never filmed anything like this. How do I know? Because this video has the SynthID identifier on it. SynthID is Google's invisible watermarking and identification system for content generated with artificial intelligence. I went on Gemini, uploaded the video, asked it to check if it has the SynthID AI identifier, and boom! The identifier is found in the pictures. Well done, Google. You did a good job, or you gave yourselves away. The video is fabricated, made by artificial intelligence. Plus, we also see classic signs of images generated by artificial intelligence. One person is missing an arm, and another has deformed limbs and fused fingers. Of course, the Artemis 2 astronauts have had official training in the mission simulator or during splashdown recovery exercises. NASA even has a separate page with official materials. In other words, there are real training sessions, but the viral photo with astronauts hanging in front of a green screen is a falsificare. No, lie, say the conspiracy theorists. Look, these are identical images of the Earth. The clouds look the same. Even though they were photographed half a century apart by the Apollo missions and the recent Artemis mission. How is that possible? In fact, the images are fake. The 2 halves are versions of the same image. Not 2 genuine photographs taken 54 years apart. The original photograph from Apollo 17 called Blue Marble exists and was taken on December 7, 1972 on the way to the moon. There is also a picture that inspired the person who faked the images, an improved recreation with recent satellite data, Blue Marble 2002, created by combining photographic data in several spectral bands from 4 different months, and by adding a layer of clouds. But that's an ordinary fact. I talked with Akki, a supporter of Flat Earth, the moon landing hoax, the Anunnaki civilizations, and many others.
Mr. Akki, fabulous. Anyway, I'm going to make a series with you, Mr. Akki, because you have a lot to say. Sir, I met you, maybe sometime.
We're making the Elodia series episode by episode. Akki believes that the astronauts didn't go to the moon with the Orion capsule. Instead, they were extracted from the rocket right before launch with a special gondola Let's listen to him.
There are 4 cable cars. Yes, 4, because there's footage from in front of them too. Look how it's coming down. It's coming down on this one. Because they're not here in a crisis. They're not here.
I told them live. The gondola doesn't transport the astronauts during launch. It was part of the emergency evacuation system on the launch pad. 4 evacuation baskets mounted on the mobile launch tower, similar to ski lift gondolas, used only if an emergency occurs at the pad before launch. NASA clearly tells us that, in case of emergency, they take the crew and personnel from the access arm level to the edge of the pad, where emergency vehicles pick them up. The fact that there are 4 doesn't prove anything. There were 4 baskets, each carrying up to 5 people, specifically for the quick evacuation of astronauts and personnel from the pad, not for their secret descent before the flight. When the Orion capsule of the Artemis mission reached the moon, this image appeared on the internet, showing the Oriental Basin on the moon, supposedly as seen from the capsule. You can see the window frame. Then there are the more dramatic ones that look like perfect explosions, not asteroid impacts in space. And my favorite, this one, looks like the Death Star from the movie Star Wars. For anyone who has ever looked at the moon through a telescope eyepiece, clearly these are fakes. The real image taken by the Artemis II crew is here. NASA clearly says that it only shows the southwestern portion of the Oriental Basin and highlights an annular ring, not a giant crater. So perfectly concentric like in the viral images. In other words, the fake posts completely changed the shape of the lunar terrain. From a real arc, they make a spectacular circular structure, much more dramatic, exactly the kind of exaggeration typical for AI-generated images.
So, did we all really watch NASA as they flew a spacecraft around the moon? Or were we just watching a Hollywood studio? And why are they telling us that these astronauts are from central casting? Even if you don't know what central casting is, I encourage all of you to do a Google search.
If you want to subscribe to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
You've all heard, right, what they really meant, my dears.
In this video, we're told that the 4 astronauts of the Artemis II mission are actually actors, so the mission would be a lie. Actually, it's a translation error from English. The person doesn't just say central casting in English, but right out of central casting, which means something else, namely that someone looks exactly how you'd expect them to look in that role. The expression tells us that the people look just like you'd expect astronauts to look, right out of central casting. Why call those who deny the moon landing conspiracy theorists as well? I know some people might not like that term, but there's a justification for it. No one holds anything personal against them, but they fall into the realm of conspiracism, as that's where all pseudoscientific ideas go. Here's why. Pseudoscience can't explain everything around us the way science can up to a point. That's because pseudoscience always starts from a wrong premise. Either the Earth is flat, or the moon landing never happened, and so on. Because it can't explain everything, at some point they'll turn to conspiracy theories, which supposedly hide the so-called truth. This is bound to happen. For example, why didn't the Soviets, who were enemies of the Americans, contest the moon landing? Supporters of the staged moon landing can't answer any other way except through a conspiracy theory. Both the Americans and the Soviets make money from these so-called missions, so they joined forces to lie to us. Of course, it would require a conspiracy of thousands of engineers from both countries. Do this exercise with any pseudo or anti-scientific thing like flat earth, anti-vaccination, creationism, and so on. You will see how all of them, at some point, resort to a conspiracy, usually a global one, to cover up that area they can no longer explain. Another example. Why, if the Earth is flat, can't we reach its edge, the intact wall? Because the American Navy won't let us. Aha, conspiracy. That's why the term conspiracism applies, especially today, to all pseudosciences that try to explain everything.
No, but you know what? It's important to have a debate. Debate is the secret to progress.
No, Debate is not the secret to progress, but honest discussion based on scientific knowledge. But let's get back to my conversation with Akki. He believes that, on their return, the Artemis astronauts did not come back from the moon with the Orion capsule, but that it was dropped from a plane. Let's listen to what he told me.
Here, this is a plane. Do you see it? An American plane. Here is the capsule. Look at it. It's being dropped. There you go. The parachute opens here. Look at it. Here are the cosmonauts. So the descent will be filmed live. But you will see the moment when Houston says, "We see the parachute." And then here they are released in the plane. And here already, "Houston, we see you, we see you." Here it comes down live, enters the water. They take it out, and they're deceiving us. But they fall from this plane.
Let's put it this way. I searched for the original footage that you see here. It really exists and it's real. But what does it represent? It's not hard to guess. These are real tests of the Orion parachute system, where NASA dropped test capsules from C-130 or C-17 aircraft to check the descent sequence. NASA itself explicitly says that it's a test. It's normal to do these tests, but you don't want to put astronauts in the Orion capsule without first testing if the parachutes open properly on return. The footage with the capsule being dropped from the plane is actually real, but it's from NASA's tests for the Orion parachutes, not from the Artemis mission. How can the moon look so small from aboard the Orion capsule when the capsule is approaching the moon, but so big here on Earth? Our friend is asking. There's no anomaly. Halfway between Earth and the moon will appear twice as large as it does from Earth. It's just that the photo from Orion, the one on the left, is a wide shot where you can also see the spacecraft, so the moon takes up very little of the image. The photo on the right, where the moon looks huge, was taken with a zoom lens, not with the naked eye. So the conspiracy argument doesn't hold up. The moon isn't too small, it's just that the comparison is misleading. Here's another photo of the moon taken from Earth without zoom. See how small it looks. When the SLS rocket took the Artemis mission astronauts into space, this photo appeared. The author says this is the first image of Earth captured by Artemis TEGU in space, which clearly shows that the Earth is not flat, but the image stands out immediately. The clouds seem almost too pronounced. That's what those who believe the Earth is flat have also noticed. They said, "Aha, NASA tricked us with a fake picture." Yes, the picture is fake, but they were tricked by someone else, not by NASA. Here is the real image again. It's blurrier because it was taken through the capsule window with reflections and strong light. There's a big difference between the dark interior and the very bright Earth. If you want, here's the NASA footage from aboard Orion, in fast forward, this time with a high-resolution camera placed outside the capsule. Now you can see the clouds better because the capsule is very close to Earth. You also saw the boosters separate in the footage. Here's another proof of NASA's lie. The author writes, if there were 4 astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission who was filming, because the camera moves from the astronauts to the window and it can't be a static one, who moved the camera to the porthole? But what you see is not a real image taken by the astronauts. A clip stitched together with artificial intelligence from 2 different images. A real frame with the crew at the top, with the lower part processed using artificial intelligence, and a separate image of Earth through the porthole. We truly live in the age of artificial intelligence, so be careful and skeptical about what appears on the internet. It can be fake. Here we have another proof of forgery. NASA. This is a real photo taken by the crew of the Artemis 2 mission on their way to the moon, but here's what our friend is doing. He opens the photo in Coral Paint and adjusts the gamma factor. Surprisingly, some extra lines appear, which seem to be behind the Earth. How is that possible? The image must be fake. Curiously, I also adjusted the gamma factor in the image and got the same result. Could the man be right? Then I took the original picture and only adjusted the brightness and contrast. Now those lines are very clear. What are they? Look here, where the glass meets the frame. You can see that the frame is higher, which means those lines are reflections of the frame in the glass, precisely because the frame is higher. But why does it seem like the reflection is behind the Earth? That's an optical illusion because the Earth is very bright. The reflection is in front of the Earth, just as expected. It's just that it's barely visible because the Earth is very bright there. An example is the window on an airplane. That's definitely a fake image. This gentleman starts off by saying that, then admits he's making a joke. Just kidding, he says. It's just that not everyone thinks it's a joke.
And did you notice how as soon as a rocket reaches space, it's suddenly CGI? We all just see a launch, then a curve in the sky. Don't believe me? Go to Google and type rockets in space. And that's probably because we're in a system.
The truth is that during the launch, NASA builds these kinds of images based on real telemetry data. Just like in the case of the Artemis launch. That means things like the rocket's altitude, its speed, and its condition, using the data sent to the ground by onboard sensors and tracking systems. Then it generates a visualization that places a graphical representation of the rocket in the position and motion indicated by the telemetry data. It's useful for the launch team members to be able to see the rocket's actual status at any moment like this. In this video of the astronauts from the Artemis mission, taken from the website of a conspiracy theorist who claims that NASA is lying, when the astronauts present the food, a bag appears that has a red dot on it. While the bag is being rotated, this red dot seems to disappear at some point when we would expect it to be visible. How is that possible? To be sure, I took the original video from NASA and watched the dot. It appears, then disappears, appears, then disappears. Everything is fine up to this point when the dot should be visible, but it doesn't seem to be. However, the area is quite dark first of all, and I suspect it's also a matter of reflection that depends on the colors of the incident light. But otherwise, the dot was clearly visible and things floated in space just as they were supposed to. Here's a viral anomaly. A video shared by conspiracy theorists who think NASA is deceiving us features text over footage filmed by Artemis mission astronauts inside the Orion capsule. That text really is strange. It's a glitch. It shows the footage was created with a green screen in a studio. Surprise, surprise, the video is fuzzy. In that same NASA recording, nothing can be seen at that moment throughout the entire video. Look here, the conspiracy theorists say. It can't be filmed from a plane because there are a restricted zone extending more than 50 kilometers around the launch area. Who is being filmed then? He's lying to us. I looked at the time the rocket spent in the air and I estimated the height of the column to be at least 1 kilometer. The photograph's frame will be several kilometers high. The photograph was therefore taken from at least a few dozen kilometers away using zoom. From an airplane, you can easily take photos from over 50 kilometers away. And so it is possible that rocket launches can be seen from airplanes even if it avoids the launch area by many tens of kilometers. Here is a conspiracy theorist. To get from Earth to the moon, millions of liters of fuel are needed. Where did that amount fit? In the rocket's tanks, brother. A liter is just a cubic decimeter, and those tanks are as tall as the Intercontinental Hotel. Try filling the Intercontinental Hotel with a liter of milk at a time. You'll need millions. And can't you imagine that you have to take the tanks with you all the way to the moon? It's enough to push the Orion capsule to the right speed, release the empty tanks so they fall back to Earth, and then the capsule continues its journey to the moon, thanks to inertia. Here are the beautiful images that the Artemis mission sent us from the moon. They are the clearest ones. That's what the people who made these images say. But be careful. Have you ever seen the moon in the sky so colorful? How could the Artemis crew have photographed the moon in so many colors then? No. These colorful images are not raw photos taken by Artemis 2. Some of them actually come from photographers on Earth, from an amateur astronomer, who added artificial colors to get more beautiful images. There's nothing wrong with that, but the person who shared them told us they were taken by Artemis. The official photos from the Artemis mission have a much more natural look, with a grayish-brown tone and normal contrasts, not with the garish colors from the viral posts. That doesn't mean NASA doesn't use the process of adding colors to images when needed, like here and like here. Here, real differences in mineral composition on the surface of the moon are highlighted, which are normally very subtle. And finally, let's look at a real comparison in a photo taken by the Apollo 17 crew and half a century later by Artemis 2. The montage is real. Here is the original photo from Apollo 17, and here is the original photo from Artemis 2. And now I say let's enjoy the real images from the Artemis mission. In the Artemis 2 mission, NASA's Space Launch System rocket was launched on Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. A nighttime image of the Earth was taken on April 2nd. A strip of the Earth is illuminated against the dark background of space. Christina Koch is looking at the Earth through the porthole. Hair floats in the air of the capsule because there is no gravity. Here is the far side of the moon. Here the Earth is seen from near the moon, the surface of the moon seen up close. The moon eclipses the sun, whose bright disk can be seen, an image of the sun being eclipsed at a later moment. Somewhere far away is the home where the astronauts must return. A lunar detail. Arrived home safely. And at the end, let's joke a little. Why would Earth be flat while other planets are spherical? This is what the flat Earth would look like, somewhere in space. Akki says it stands on pillars, which in turn stand in salty water. Why doesn't water run off the edges? This is what a lunar eclipse would look like, when the Earth casts its shadow on the moon. That's why it's red. But actually, maybe the flat Earth looks like this, or to have it both ways, let's make it half spherical. And with that, we've reached the end of this video, which I made with a script. You see, now I'm speaking freely. I used a script because I started from images. And if I had spoken freely, I would have talked a lot. Just like I'm doing now. The video would have been much longer. What I want to tell you is that I'll probably only make one more video about these conspiracy theorist things. In which, I don't know, I'll somehow try to open the eyes of people who say, hey, but I'm not that alone. I don't know how successful I'll be. But of course, I'll focus on science, so this was a special video. I strayed a bit from science because I got caught up in this wave too. And what I want to add, that thing I said there about conspiracy theorists, yes, I agree with it. It's a conclusion that seems obvious to me. Indeed, when you're dealing with pseudoscience, at some point you can't explain something, and then you end up with a conspiracy theory. They say, look, they're hiding the truth from us. And that's why I think it's okay to associate, let's say, conspiracy theorists with those who support pseudoscience theories. Because in any discussion you have with them, you'll see that at some point you'll end up with a conspiracy theory. So conspiracy theorists, I know you may dislike that term. Yeah, I know it's a label. I don't care for labels either. Yeah, I get it in that sense. But on the other hand, any pseudoscience theory ends up with a conspiracy. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do it right now by clicking this subscribe button. What can I say? I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon or is a member of this channel. See you next time. I'm Cristian Presura, Fizica Poveștită. You are cool. All the best. Goodbye.